Hello, football fans, and welcome to View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we take a look back at the Premier League action from the weekend, with VAR making a timely return at the King Power as Leicester get the better of Spurs. City smash 8 past Watford, and Liverpool make it 6 from 6 with a win at Stamford Bridge. Pete returns with another teaser, and we've got a new leader in the predictions challenge. There's an update on our FA Cup feature, and Chris has more stats in the wonders of white. Lots to get through this week, so let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the second series of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Rich here, and as always, Chris is with us. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Rich. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too
Good.
bad.
Good. Lots of football to talk about this week. But before we kick off, we are just going to give a shout out to a new Instagram page that's recently started. So Set Piece Shirts. So retro football shirts are back in fashion. Everyone seems to be getting involved, but we just want to give a special shout out to Set Piece Shirts. So they've been kind enough to donate a Liverpool shirt to us, which we're going to be giving away, aren't we, Chris?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. So just a few details on this. Now, we will be putting it out on our social media channels, but for people that are listening to this episode, you can get a bit of a head start if you are interested in getting hold of this shirt. So we have a 1982 Liverpool away shirt, so the yellow Crown Paints kit, which is a retro reproduction with an Ian Rush shirt. So we've got Rush and number 9 on the back. So all you need to do to be in with a chance of getting your hands on this shirt is liking our Instagram page, so View from the Sideline pod, and also liking the Set Piece Shirts page. If you like both pages, then you'll be entered into the draw. Like I say, there will be another chance to enter when it all goes out online. The shirt is an extra large, but it's a bit of a small extra large. So if you're a large, it's probably about right for you. So like our page on Instagram, like the Set Piece Shirts page on Instagram, and you'll be in it with a chance of winning it. So we'll get some pictures online later this week, I think, Chris, and then
and then we'll put all the entry requirements on there again, and obviously the time that you guys have to enter.
Yeah, but if you're listening to this episode,
you've obviously got a head start.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a head start. So, okay, that bit's out of the way. The admin's out of the way. So we'll get into this week's episode. So we'll start off with Pete's teaser. So what have you got for us this week, Pete?
Okay, Rich, here we go. This week's question. How many football teams with the word City in their name have played in the Premier League?
Good one. Good
Nice.
one, Pete. I like that. Yeah.
Good one.
Hopefully a bit easier than last week's. So last week was the first one we have got wrong. So we're 4-1 for this season so far. So we'll come back to that teaser at the end of the episode. So we'll get into the Premier League review. I think after this weekend's action, there's probably only one place to start. Well, this is where we are starting, Chris, before we get mixed up on what game we're going to. So Man City Watford 5-0 after 18 minutes, I think it was, which is I think it's the quickest time a team's got to 5-0 in Premier League history. Finished at 8. I think could have been a lot worse for Watford, but Norwich last week, was it just a blip? Has normal service been resumed?
I think I think it made them slightly angry that they lost to Norwich, and they did not hold back on Watford. I did feel a bit sorry for Watford, but it was an absolute masterclass from Man City, really. Like you said, five up within the first 17, 18 minutes. I've actually seen a game live where I've seen 8 goals being scored, but I can't imagine what it probably feels like if you're in the stadium itself and your team's losing 8-0. But yeah,
I wonder if I imagine that it dulls the atmosphere completely. Because even if you're a City fan, as much as you want to see the team score as many goals as they can, that as a competitive spectacle, the game's almost over within 20 minutes.
and it kind of it reminded me actually. Can you remember last season when they beat Chelsea 6-0 or 6? I can't remember, 6-0, 6-1.
At the
And they
Etihad,
scored,
yeah.
and they scored 4 goals in about 23 minutes. So I can kind of like relate slightly to it, but such a strange game. But you can't really. I don't think you can really. Unfortunately, Watford were being picked off left, right, and centre. But obviously Bernardo Silva scoring a hat trick, which is obviously probably of all the goal scorers probably stood out the most. But like I said, it could have been more. Foster made some good saves second half, but I think it was clear to see second half Man City kind of just, it was almost like a training game for them, I think, in the end.
It was strange because we were talking about De Bruyne not playing last week against Norwich or not starting.
Yeah.
So he starts this week, but no Raheem Sterling. So he was an unused sub. Yeah, and he didn't get on at all. So I don't know if that sort of debunks what we were talking about last week with De Bruyne not starting. I mean, I think he makes them tick. I think De Bruyne and Sterling both give something different. But it was interesting that Sterling didn't get on at all. I know they really didn't need him in the end, the way it worked out.
No.
But it was strange that you've got Watford, who came out of a really good point against Arsenal the week before, a great second half performance into that game. And I know we'll talk about Arsenal later, but Arsenal sort of did the exact reverse, where they had a poor second half and then went into the game and played well. Watford have got, I mean, they're still without a win. Their next 2, they're away to Wolves this coming weekend, then they're home to Sheffield United. So their teams, especially Wolves, I mean, Wolves are second bottom, I think they are. So that's almost becoming a pretty critical game this coming weekend. If Wolves get the win in that match, then that gap starts to get a bit bigger. But I think I guess it's almost a free hit for Watford. That I don't think anyone sort of expected them to go and win. But
I think it was just the scoreline. I think,
8-0 was a bit extreme. But I think it shows, if anything, that City aren't going away. I mean, I think the Norwich game probably just was a blip, and they're right back in form. So 3 points for them keeps the pressure on at the top. So we just mentioned Arsenal. So Arsenal Villa. What a game this was. This
was a good game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good for the neutral. Very sort of topsy-turvy. For me, the turning point was the sending off, but it was almost the sending off was the turning point.
Well, actually helped, didn't it? It actually
absolutely.
It felt like it helped Arsenal more than it helped Villa, and this is the second game in a row where Villa have ended up playing against 10 men and not really got too much out of either games, to be honest.
When it was 11v11, I thought
they were
Villa
the best
were
team.
The better side.
They were, they were the better team. And McGinn, throughout the whole game, I think he was probably their best player, to be fair. But the one player that stood out for me for Arsenal was Guendouzi. I have mentioned him before on here.
He's having a good season.
He's such a good player. He seems to be able to read the game so well, and he's got a really good range of passing on him as well. They should really try and tie him down to a long-term contract before, because he is a very, very good player. I still like Arsenal going forward, but I still think defensively they're struggling. So I think that's
They haven't kept a clean sheet since the first game of the season, so the 1-0 win against Newcastle. And in the 5 games since then, that's 10 goals conceded now. So it's two a game.
David Luiz wasn't there for the first. He didn't play the first game of the season. So
well, no, that is true.
there's your answer there, look, mate.
That is true. But I think we agreed we shouldn't class him as a defender.
All right, yeah.
But I think Villa will be kicking themselves a bit, really, because it was, in my view, it was a silly challenge to give away the penalty. It felt a bit clumsy, and as soon as Arsenal get that penalty, as soon as they score, I know they went 2-1 down pretty quick after, but I think it gives them that momentum. And when it
just
and when it went back to 2-2, I think, even with 10 men, I always thought that Arsenal would probably go on and win it.
Yeah.
So I think from a Villa perspective, I guess there's 2 things to finish it off. The handball.
I thought that was a penalty.
Why is that not reviewed?
I don't know. I personally thought that was a penalty. We've seen.
I think
these
everybody
given
did.
already.
I think even Arsenal fans probably thought it was.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit harsh.
So, but take that out. I think Villa will probably take away from it that there needs to be some improvement on their game management. They're a man up, they're a goal up. Admittedly, they're away to Arsenal. Arsenal have got a frightening sort of front line, but I kind of feel that it was in their hands to win it, and it's going to be points dropped for them, I think. Whereas going to Arsenal and getting even a point would have been a good result, but. But a good 3 points for Arsenal. Complete reversal for how they were in the second half against Watford.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe they should play with 10 men more often. So we'll go to your boys, Chris. Chelsea, Liverpool, Stamford Bridge. A great game for a neutral, I think. And I think Chelsea did themselves. Came out of that with some credit.
That we went, 2-0 down, but I have to mention that the goal that was disallowed. It's he is offside. I can't complain that he's offside, but it's how many seconds into the game does it have to be for it not to obviously get it disallowed? Because there's at least 6-7 pass sequences after that. The ball's gone in the back of the net. It just seems like it's a very long time.
But I think it's because the assistant referee doesn't see it, therefore doesn't flag. So if it doesn't end up being a goal or a goal scoring opportunity, they're not going to review it. If Liverpool get that ball and just clear it, my assumption would be that they would just play on.
Yeah.
But the fact the ball ended up in the net, that is why they check it.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's 5 seconds later, 15, 20 seconds later, that they'll go back to look at it.
But 2-0 down. I thought second half, I thought we were by far the better team. I thought there was moments where Liverpool's defence couldn't cope at times with us going forward, and Kante's goal was I don't know if he meant to finish it like that, but it was some finish from him, and I think now he's back. I thought we looked a lot better in the middle with him playing there.
I thought
we had chances. We had chances. I thought we should have got at least a point. To be fair, on that second half display, I thought we probably deserved to get another goal. Batshuayi missed a good chance, and Mount had a good chance as well. But for me, it didn't feel.
A draw wouldn't have been a bad result.
No, it didn't. It didn't really. It didn't feel like a defeat for me. I know we lost the game, but to me, I thought, there was a lot to take from that game. Before the game, I would have, a point would probably been the best I thought we could have got. But seeing the performance second half, I think,
there was what I found quite impressive from a Chelsea point of view was, and they've done that in a lot of games this season. They start really well. The sort of first 5, 10, 15 minutes, they're taking it to the opposition, whether they're home or away. And even the early goal from Liverpool, I think Alexander-Arnold scored 14, 15 minutes. It didn't seem to knock Chelsea from their stride. They kept to their game plan.
Yeah.
If you're going to be maybe not even critical, the Firmino goal was disappointing because
from a defensive point of view.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought he wouldn't be sort of top of my list of sort of dangerous people in the air in the Liverpool side, but he's got a free header from 6 yards out, and that took a little bit of stuffing out of Chelsea, I think, but because it was so soon after the disallowed goal, so you're going from 1-1 to 2-0 down in the space of like 5 minutes, which I know Lampard said after the game that when you have a goal and the stadium celebrating, the team is celebrating, and then it's sort of disallowed through VAR, it does give the opposition that sort of impetus a bit, and it deflates the team that have had the goal disallowed, if you know what I mean. So
yeah.
I think that was maybe a bit of a killer blow, but does it concern you no home wins this season? So Leicester, Sheffield United and Liverpool. 3 games played, no home win yet.
Maybe the Sheffield United one, but the Leicester one and the Liverpool one, I'm not too fussed by, to be fair. Obviously, we lost the Champions League as well to Valencia at home, but we've got Grimsby tomorrow, so I'm a bit more hopeful tomorrow.
That's a good point. But we should just mention that obviously there's the EFL Cup going on tonight. So we've got Spurs, Colchester, that's 0-0. Southampton are 1-up against Portsmouth in the South Coast Derby. Leicester 2-0 up. Man City 3-0 up. Everton 2-0. Watford 1-1. Arsenal, Nottingham Forest 0-0. I think Saints may have just scored again, so it may be 2-0. But anyway, we'll keep you up to date on those scores. Just one last thing on that game. Something I noticed from watching the highlights. Liverpool's bench, it didn't seem to be the most, but the strongest bench for a side that is 6 from 6. So I mean, take that as you will, that maybe they don't need a strong bench because their starting 11's so good, but their bench didn't sort of fill me with confidence with regards to options. So they had Brewster, Gomez, sub-keeper Lallana, Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Shaqiri. I mean, there is some talent there, but I think if you compare it to the Chelsea bench, so Alonso, Barkley, Batshuayi, Pedro, Pulisic and Kurt Zouma, I'd even go as far as to say Chelsea had a better bench.
Yeah, but then you look on the pitch.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm talking about it from a squad perspective.
Yeah.
That if you took the City squad against the Liverpool squad, City's bench is a lot stronger than Liverpool's.
Definitely.
I don't know, just an observation. Just to go back to the EFL, so Saints are 2-0 up, and Arsenal have just taken the lead against Nottingham Forest. Spurs are 0-0 against Colchester, but we'll brush over that. So we'll stay in London. So we go to the West Ham Man United game. It didn't really seem to kick off until sort of towards the end of the first half. There wasn't really a lot of action. But what is going on at United? I think we've got to give West Ham credit here. So not to speak about how bad United are for the whole review, but what's going on there?
West Ham took their chances, and a very vulnerable looking Manchester United squad, I think it has to be said. But I think the whole situation was summed up well by Gary Neville when he said how much money that they had spent in the last sort of 7-8 seasons, and then you look at the kind of the front three in the midfield that they ended the game with on Sunday. Where is the money going? Like where has it gone? It's just, you know, I
think there's a 500 million net spend since since Ferguson left.
It's just crazy. They have pretty much one striker and one
who's now injured.
And you know, they are in. what baffles me is they've had money to spend this summer, yet for me, Chelsea's side look better than them. I know they are above us in the league, and they beat us 4-0, but they just look on the ropes at the moment. And I know that they've bought Maguire, but he has not lived up to that price tag that they've paid.
But do you not think they've strengthened in the wrong areas? I mean, their defence from last year to this year, player for player, I think their defence is better.
That is better.
But you've got to look at who's gone. So Ander Herrera's gone, Lukaku's gone, Sanchez has gone, and as little as Sanchez was playing, he was still an option. He was a forward option for them, which they now no longer have.
They just, I know, and he is trying to give some of the youth a chance, but they just don't seem good enough. They've got no one on the pitch to lead them. I think that they don't have.
I don't think he's playing the youth in the Premier League, though. Well, I mean, Europa League against Astana, I think he did, and they sort of scraped through that 1-0.
He brought some of the youngsters on.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's doing that in the Premier League. I mean, Pogba and Martial, I think, are the two big misses for United. I know Luke Shaw's injured as well, but Pogba and Martial are probably the ones that are going to give them that something different. But do you think adding those two players is enough to make United a top 4, even a top 6 side?
Wow,
I'm not sure it is.
Not really. But again, Gary Neville saying that how much it's going to cost in the region of 500-600 million to get that Manchester United squad into a top 4 team. And he's probably right, because the amount that they would need to spend to improve that squad, I'd say they need at least 2 free midfielders, and probably at least 2 or 3 attackers as well.
I think we'll have to wait and see how much time Solskjaer gets, because there's a lot of fans over the weekend that were saying it's going to be a 3, 4, 5 year project. I don't think the fans or the club are going to be that patient.
No.
So it'd be interesting to see how long he lasts.
Next Monday, that's a big game.
Yeah, that's a huge game. But on the flip side, so West Ham unbeaten since the opening day, 3 wins in their last 4, 3 clean sheets in a row.
Mark Noble, he's such a good player, isn't he? I mean, he's probably quite underrated, I would say. I
like the look of West Ham this season. I think that they have the capability to remove that sort of inconsistency tag that I think they get labelled with quite a lot.
Yeah, the striker that they've added, that Haller, he does look like a very, very good striker. So
when you looked at the starting lineups, there was a lot of West Ham fans that were saying that it was the first time in a long time that they'd gone to a match against Man United and actually thought that they were going to win. And when you looked at the starting 11s, even the sort of squad as a whole, I think I'd be picking the majority of the West Ham players, especially at the moment, especially how they're playing. They're playing really well.
Yarmolenko's just come back from injury, a long-term injury.
Yeah, I like him.
He's almost
him as a player.
He's almost like a new signing for them as well, isn't he? Because obviously he didn't play a lot last season. So
yeah, agree. Just one last one before we move on. This just a yes or no. So if you remember last year, we did our Premier League 11.
Yeah.
Would you still put De Gea in? Yes or no?
No.
No. Would you put Lloris in?
No.
No. No, I don't think I would.
I'd have the man in between the sticks at Liverpool. I think
a lot of us would. So we go to the King Power next. So Leicester 2, Spurs 1.
I think the big talking point in this one is the VAR decision. Is someone literally got a ruler out or something? It's just marginal.
I don't know how they actually measure it, but if you're in a world where VAR doesn't exist, so last season that is a goal, and I don't think there's any discussion about it.
Because
the benefit goes to the
Onside,
attacker.
yeah.
If he looks level at worst, I think. So a level decision, you would always go with the benefit of the attacker. I don't think there's any debate. Now, this is where I struggle a little bit with it, because there's 2 VAR decisions in that game. That Leicester had a goal in the first half disallowed, and I think it was rightly disallowed because Perez, I think it was Perez, was offside.
Offside.
Now, if you're going by the rules, by the letter of the law, Son is offside. Whether he's offside by a toe or whatever part of him that they're measuring is offside, he is offside. But I just think that, and this isn't as a Spurs fan, because I'll come on to the game in a second, but it just seems too close to call that you can call that offside. Because when you look at the blue and the red line that they use with VAR,
it looks.
I mean, 75-80% of the line, maybe even more than that, they're overlapping.
Yeah.
That's the tightest one.
I thought it was hard. I thought personally.
But he's offside.
He's offside.
You can't argue with it.
But it's
the problem.
Yeah, it's just not.
But I think, as far as the game goes, I thought Spurs started pretty well. I thought the attackers were finding space, especially Lamela. It was quite an open game. I thought both teams looked dangerous. It was pretty end-to-end. The issue for me at the moment with Spurs, now it's been highlighted their away record. So haven't won away since beating Fulham in January. Now, that's a long time.
I didn't realise it was that long. I didn't realise.
Yeah, but again, I kind of think it's the Champions League that sort of masked a lot of this, and I kind of feel, and it's not just because of this defeat. I think it's more the way Spurs are playing. They can't hold a lead at the moment. I'm actually making myself try and dislike Poch a little bit because I think he's going to go. Now, I think.
Do you think he'll go under his terms, or
I think there'll be some sort of mutual agreement at some point, probably at the end of the season.
Do you just think they need a bit of a refresh, or is it just that you think that?
I kind of feel that the group of players have peaked, and I do feel that there's something in this that he may have taken them as far as he can. Now, from a team perspective, Ndombele I think he's played really well. He's been a really good signing. I've gone the other way on Eriksen. I would actually rather he goes because he just does not seem that interested.
Because mind is not in.
No, I don't think it is. And if he's going to start on the bench, I don't see how that benefits Spurs.
He's
really,
not. I don't think he's an impact. I don't think he's that sort of player that's gonna...
No, but if we're going to rely on him for the last 10, 15 minutes of games to get us back into it, if we need to get a goal, I don't think he's involved enough to have an impact in such a short space of time. The interesting thing for me will be when all the players are fit, when Eric Dyer and Dele Alli are both playing tonight, but when they're back fully fit, when Lo Celso's fit, I think it'll be interesting to see what team Poch goes with. I mean, even Wanyama, he came on as a sub at the weekend, but I'm not sure what he gives us anymore. I think he's sort of gone the other way, but I don't want to pin it all on this one thing, but I have massively reduced my expectations for Spurs this season. And I think cup runs are going to be our thing this season.
Did you miss Lloris this weekend?
Well, it's strange you say that because obviously he wasn't playing because I think his wife had given birth or was in labour.
Yeah.
And I was actually saying during the game that I felt confident with Gazzaniga in goal because I think he has played well for Spurs when he's played recently.
Yeah.
And it was literally about 5 seconds before he spilt the shot that led to the first goal, which was then disallowed. But I don't think he's our problem. I don't think the goalie's our problem. I think we just cannot seem to keep a lead.
Just a quick thing on Leicester. Maddison, I thought had a really good game, and
he did. He's who I want. That's who I want. I want him at Spurs.
And the Leicester defender, I think he's Turkish. I cannot pronounce his name. He's their new signing, but it begins with an S. But he had a really good game as well.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I know who you mean. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This for me is a critical season for Spurs, and that game was quite interesting for me in the respect of I feel like Leicester are where Spurs were 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're on the up, whereas I feel Spurs are almost on the curve coming back down. And I'm not giving up hope or anything like that. It's just
being
disappointing.
honest.
Yeah, after the Champions League midweek as well, I think it's difficult to be positive. And we're 0-0 against Colchester at halftime in the League Cup, but the next 3 games for Spurs are crucial. Starting against Saints at home on Saturday, there's 3 more than winnable games that. If we come out the other side with 9 points, it could be different. But we'll move on. So again, that was a good link there because we're going to Saints next. The Saints Bournemouth 3-1 Bournemouth.
Good. A good win for Bournemouth and Wilson. An outstanding performance from him. Obviously, I think he's again. I'm backing him for another England call up. And with Rashford potentially injured as well, I think he will definitely get a call up now. But Bournemouth flying high at the moment.
It was one of those games where stats meant nothing. So Saints had 65% possession and 25 attempts at goal to Bournemouth 6. Yeah, Bournemouth 1-3-1.
And
I mean, the third goal was terrible, wasn't it? Really,
yeah.
The mix-up was awful.
Just obviously another thing, Bournemouth. They do tend to start the seasons pretty well, and they have drifted off. I remember last season they started well, and then I think we were praising them up until November, December, and then they went on a really awful run. And I think that's something that they do need to watch out for.
I think that's why I think that was my main thinking behind why I put them to go.
Yeah, you said you were going to go down.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm almost kind of hoping for a mid-season collapse from them, but they're in the top.
Well,
I think they're in the top 6 at the moment. So
it's funny you should say about Poch just a second ago about him, maybe moving on. I had a question down for you. I had Eddie Howe. What are your thoughts? ? So, would he be someone that you think could take over at Tottenham and do something, or do you think that's a little bit out of his remit?
I don't think it's out of his remit. He's quite similar to Poch, I think, in the regards of developing and nurturing homegrown or young talent, if you like. I think he would do well at Spurs there, and I think he plays a sort of football that you would normally associate with Spurs. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm not convinced he's a big enough name that they would. If Poch was to go, and then the remit for Spurs is to go to the next level, I'm not sure Eddie Howe is the person to take them to the next level. But if it was to happen, I wouldn't complain about it.
I think he will manage England at one point in his career. By the way, I do think that he will be.
I'm sure he was heavily linked with Arsenal when Wenger announced he was going. I think
he's a good manager.
There was some link. There was some link there. No, I think he is a good manager. It's kind of like Sean Dyche, isn't it? Would you put Sean Dyche in a top 6 side? Would you put Eddie Howe in a top 6 side? It is, yeah. But a good manager, and a great win for Bournemouth. A great win. So back-to-back wins for them. So up into the top 6, having a decent start to the season. Everton, Sheffield United, Everton back to their old tricks. It almost felt, and it doesn't do Sheffield United justice at all, but it's the only phrase I could kind of think of. It was almost like a smash and grab.
Well, yeah,
They soaked up so much pressure, and then they got the 2 goals almost against the run of play, but
their own
looked
manager
comfortable
said,
throughout the whole game.
Their own manager after the game said it was the worst performance of the season that they had, and they won 2-0.
Yeah,
Well, that kind of
but
summed it up a bit. But
three
Everton
of the
poor
last
now,
4 for
I see a lot of
Everton,
people are
3
calling
defeats in the last 4.
for the manager to go as well. I've seen it on Twitter since the game, saying that he should step down, but I don't think he
One
will.
of the key things for me was the reaction from the Everton fans at the end. I mean, there was pretty loud booing.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a game where I think the focus is on Everton, but it should be on Sheffield United.
Oh, definitely.
Because they didn't let Everton play. You could tell from watching the game, Sheffield United were more than happy for Everton to have the ball out wide and just get the crosses in, because they were dealing with the crosses. I think Everton almost played straight into Sheffield United's hands, and I thought it was a fantastic performance. I don't think anyone would have had that. For United to come away with a win, because not a lot of teams will go there, and not a lot of teams will go there and keep a clean sheet.
Well, yeah, 16 games unbeaten away from home they are now.
Yeah, and the money Everton spent, and I think there was some hope, if you like, hope or expectation that they may break into the top 6 or even the top 4. I know Moise Keane's getting some.
Well, he started at the weekend, and he didn't actually play that bad. To be fair, I think it's more the service into him wasn't that great.
I mean, he's trying his hardest. I think what we need to remember is he's only sort of 19. He's come to a different country. He's adapting to the game. I think he's the wrong person to be pointing the finger at, to be honest. But a great win for Sheffield United. Everton home to City next week, I think. It's going to be a tough game. If they don't get something there, they could start dropping. Burnley, Norwich. So
is it
Norwich,
me, or is it like watching a completely different team in Burnley? I'm going to say this now. I think that they could be a dark horse for a top 8 finish this season.
It's quite amazing what no Europa League football does for you. It wasn't as close as I thought it would, but I guess Norwich coming off the back of the win against City. I mean, they've still got 7 or 8 first-team players out, so that's never good. The thing for me was in this one, I know it was 2-0 at the time, so it wasn't as relevant, but Ashley Barnes for the penalty, that's another one where I don't understand why VAR didn't pick it up. It just doesn't seem.
VAR's had one of those weekends.
Well,
they've had one of the weekends, haven't they?
If this was last season and the refs were having that, we'd all be calling for them not to ref a game the following weekend. But there you go. Yeah. But another good 3 points for Burnley, 2 goals for Chris Wood. So I think the 2 goals hit Norwich pretty quickly.
Got to stun them a little bit, I think. I didn't think,
Yeah.
I didn't think that they lived up to the hype of the previous week. But like you said, they are missing a lot of players. But fair play to Burnley.
Burnley looked in control, so good 3 points. Now, Selhurst Park, Palace v Wolves. Now, if there was ever a game of 2 halves, this was it. So I still can't quite believe it, but Wolves are still without a league win this season. And in my view, they should have been 2 or 3 up at half time. How they went in at 0-0, I'm not sure. I mean, the Palace keeper made some great saves, but still, Palace were not in the game at all in the first half. Then, second half, the shot was it's just typical of the game. Joel Ward has a shot, and I'm sure it's going about 10-12 feet wide, takes a huge deflection, wrong foots the keeper and goes in, so Palace are 1-0 up. Then you've got the sending off, so 2 bookings. Again, if you're playing Zaha and you're on a yellow card, back off him. I think you've got to, get the guy off or back off him at least. Yeah. Don't go tight to him. So Wolves are down to 10 men, then Palace should be 2 or 3 up. Benteke has a great chance. Schlupp has a great chance. Almost comes back to like the Villa bit. It's game management. 5 minutes into injury time, Zaha loses the ball, sort of midway through the Wolves half, goes up, cross comes in. Joel Ward is literally doing an audition for Dancing on Ice, where he's like trying to do the worm dance or something. So he tries to head a ball, which if he literally stands still, it's going to hit his knee or his shin and be cleared. But he decides to try and head it, and then I think it was Diego Jota just put it in.
Well, this is the second. I swear earlier on in the season, Wolves scored in like the 95th, 96th minute to get a draw as well. So it's not the first time that they've done this.
You've just got to see Roy Hodgson's reaction. I mean, I know he's annoyed, but being Roy Hodgson, he doesn't show much anger. He sort of hits one of the dugout chairs, but almost sort of taps it. But you can tell he's angry. It's quite amusing. But yet Palace they've got to be disappointed with that. They should have won that game based on the second half. I think overall a draw was probably a fair result.
Can anyone remember the last time Benteke scored a goal?
Well, I actually thought he'd been playing quite well this season. But maybe I'm watching a different game. I think Palace might struggle this year. I think I think not cashing in on Zaha and reinvesting the money might come back to haunt them. I mean, they may well have sold him and not brought anybody in, but I think it may come back to haunt them. But Wolves will pick up at some point, I'm sure. So the last game, Newcastle-Brighton.
Two words. 2 words. Andy Carroll. I think he got the biggest ovation.
What the commentator said. I mean, the highlight for me was the Shah clearance, because that's as good as a goal for me. But there were some stats coming into this game. So Newcastle have only scored 1 goal. I hope I'm not stealing this from you again.
No,
I tend to do
safe.
this.
You're safe.
Okay, Newcastle have only scored 1 goal against Brighton in their last 4 meetings, and only 4 goals in total have been scored in those 4 matches. So I think 0-0 was a pretty good bet on that one.
But good to see Andy Carroll back as well. You know, he got a great reception from the Newcastle fans. So
I think he'll do a job for them. I think
he's only there for a year. He only got a year contract, so he needs to do a job. Otherwise, he'll be.
He's on pay as you play or something, I think, isn't he?
Well, at least he earned a little bit of money then.
Well, like he needs it. So Newcastle away at Leicester, Brighton away at your place at Chelsea. I've got one more stat. I'm going to finish on the stat. So Brighton have only conceded 8 goals so far this year, but 4 of them were away at City. So they are proving to be a hard team to break down. That's good luck for you next week. Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up the Premier League review for this week. So we'll be back in part 2, where we'll start off with the EFL review. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. So we're going to get straight into the EFL review, starting with the Championship. So Leeds remain top on goal difference after a 1-1 draw at home to Derby. It did look like all 3 points were going to go to Leeds until a 91st minute equaliser from Chris Martin meant that Derby left Ellen Road with a point. Leeds also missed a second half penalty in that match, which would have seen them go 2-0 up. Swansea remained second. They also got a point in a 0-0 draw away at 7th place Bristol City. Both results mean the top 2 have still only suffered 1 defeat each so far this season. Preston, West Brom, QPR and Forest all won at the weekend and are the teams currently occupying the playoff places. At the bottom, Huddersfield are now bottom with only a single point from their 8 games. They lost 4-2 away at West Brom, which was their 6th straight defeat for Huddersfield after being relegated. Stoke moved off the bottom with a point. They drew 0-0. Let me start that again. Stoke moved off the bottom with a point in a 0-0 draw. 0-0. I've gone American. So they drew 0-0 away at Brentford. So they've now got a total of 2 points, and it stopped a run of 4 league defeats. Barnsley, they occupy the final relegation place. They fell to their 4th defeat in the last 5, going down 1-0 away to Nottingham Forest. Now into League One. Ipswich, they remain 2 points clear at the top after a 1-0 win away at Gillingham. That was their 4th win in the last 5. Coventry, they sit in 2nd. They didn't play at the weekend. So Wickham are now in 3rd and level on points with Coventry in 2nd. Wickham beat Portsmouth 1-0. Fleetwood in 4th beat Rochdale, and Sunderland and Blackpool complete the playoff places in 5th and 6th, and both got a point in draws at the weekend. At the bottom, Bolton remain bottom, but they are on a -9 now, so things are looking up for them slightly. They drew 1-1 against Sunderland at the weekend, which was their 2nd draw in a row. Wimbledon, they're 2nd to bottom. They're in 23rd after another defeat, going down 3-1 at home to Bristol Rovers. Southend are in the final relegation place, but managed their 1st win of the season, taking all 3 points in a 1-0 win away at MK Dons. So on to League Two, Chris.
Yep, so leaders Exeter were held to a 1-1 draw with Newport, whilst Crewe have moved up to 2nd after a big win at home to Salford. That one ended 4-1. Crewe were actually 1-0 down at half-time in that one. Cheltenham have moved into 3rd after an impressive away win against Plymouth. They won 2-0. Swindon are 4th. They beat Cambridge by a 1-0. Or a 0, as Richard say.
0-0.
Forest Green were held to struggling Stevenage 0-0. Forest Green ending the game with 10 men. Bradford have also moved up after a 3-1 win against Carlisle. Both teams ending the game with 10 men in that one as well. And Newport have moved down and hold the last playoff place after they drew with Exeter. Stevenage remain rooted to the bottom after their draw. That was 0-0 against Forest Green. They still have yet to win a game, but are only 1 point behind fellow strugglers Scunthorpe. So now we've got the Yeovil Watch. So another great win for Yeovil at the weekend. They came up against Solihull Moors. The game ended 1-0 with the goal coming from Wilkinson. Now he actually ended up going in goal for the end of the game. The keeper got injured. They'd used all the subs. So Wilkinson went in goal and actually made a really, really good save to keep all 3 points. So yeah, scoring a goal and making a really good save. That was in the 96th minute. That's 5 wins on the bounce now. That's the first time that they've won 5 in a row since 2013. They do remain 4th in the league, but are looking really good at the moment. And the takeover is now complete. So that's all done. So that's a good positive as well. They are actually playing Aldershot tonight and are actually winning again. So they're 2-1 up at the moment. And Woking above them are losing. So they will be level on points if the scores stay the same. There's a big game at the weekend. They're playing topside Bromley at the weekend. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
They're on fire. They are on fire.
I can't remember actually seeing this many wins. This will be like I said, that's 5 wins in a row. The last time they did that was on their way to securing a playoff place in League One, and that was the year that they went up into the Championship. So that's how long ago it was.
It's because we're following them, Chris. That's what it is.
It didn't work last season.
No, but maybe. It is working this season. But we've got to take the credit. We're certainly not taking the blame for them being relegated, but we'll certainly take the credit for them being promoted.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the stats for the Spurs game. 75%. No, it's 0-0. And you know I'm not one for stats, but 75% possession, 12 attempts on goal to Colchester's 0. I'm going to say. So out of the 12 goal attempts, guess how many have been on target?
1.
Yeah, correct.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
It's because you got Parrot up front, mate.
He's a decent player. Anyway, we're gonna move on to predictions. So just to take a quick look back at the weekend. So we have a new leader. So Adam literally went from 0 to hero because he got 0 in last year's competition. Now with a stunning score of 26.
That is going to be difficult to top.
Yeah, so that ties with your highest score this week. Obviously, yours is an average, so yours doesn't count as a one-off score. So yeah, 26. So he's now 7 ahead of Liam.
I'm right in thinking we're back to exactly the same score again.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, we were like 0.25 of a point away from each other. Yeah.
Crazy.
Anyone would think we copy each other's scores, but. Yeah, so predictions challenge. Tom is up this weekend. I should just mention it's Tom's birthday at the weekend. So if he wins predictions, he will win it with our blessing. So yeah, Tom turns 30 on Sunday. What a birthday present that would be.
30 and to get 30 points. There you go.
That would be impressive. Yeah, so happy birthday, Tom. And good luck in the predictions. So coming to the end of this week's episode, we've still got a few bits to go through. So for the FA Cup feature, unfortunately, Runcorn Town didn't manage to get past Farsley Celtic at the weekend, going down 3-1. Just, I guess, to put some context on it, I think there was, if I'm right in saying, there's 3 divisions between the two sides and something like 60, 69, 70 places. So I guess
they did get back in the game. They were 1 down and they managed to get it back to 1-1. So
yes. So we followed it with interest over the weekend. Obviously, there was a lot of build-up through the actual club on social media. So there was a lot of posts on Facebook and on Instagram, and I believe there was as well on Twitter, Chris.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame that Runcorn went out because they were the team that selected by us. And to be fair, I think the club were quite good, really. So we got a bit of uptake on social media with some followers from the club, and I know we got a pretty decent review from your mate Chris.
yeah, we had some nice words said about the podcast. It was good to see, and I think we've taken on another team there as well, I think. Well as Yeovil. Or speaking of Yeovil, have actually just scored again. It's 3-1 now.
Come on, Yeovil. But yeah, so I think that obviously the whole idea with the feature was to then take on the team that won the tie and so on. So from the 3rd qualifying round, we will be doing something similar around Farsley Celtic. So I think the next round is the 4th or 5th of October.
Yeah.
The draw has been made, so they're home to Southport. But we're not going to just move on from Runcorn. So we will. I think we'll keep up to date with them.
Well, they were supposed to be playing tonight, weren't they? And we had our eyes on it, but the match was called off before the start. So.
But I would so. For our listeners, I'd encourage you, if you can, to go onto Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and follow the club. So we've got a little bit on our website as well, which is linked to the FA Cup journey with Runcorn in that match. So we've got a link to the match report on there and just some details about it. But from the 3rd qualifying round, we will be looking at Farsley, but we won't be forgetting about Runcorn. So yeah, disappointing loss, but guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. So Chris, the wonders of white.
Here we go.
Would you like to?
Yep. So David Silva's 52-second goal this weekend is the fastest goal in the Premier League so far this season. This weekend saw Bournemouth win their first ever game away at Southampton after failing in 16 attempts before.
Well, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. This is the first time since 1959 that Watford have conceded 8 goals in a game, and that the team that beat them last time scoring 8 goals was Crystal Palace. And this one is, I've gone a bit continental on this next one. We're heading over to Spain for the last one. So Eibar have set a new La Liga record at the weekend. They had 18 shots on target away from home against Levante, and they didn't score a single goal.
Did it finish 0-0?
No, they lost the game.
Oh. I'll tell you what. An old football. I'm gonna reminisce now. An old football manager told me once that if a team ever has 10 or more shots on target, they will never lose a match. So I've lived like 20 years of my life believing that until you've just smashed it with that stat, Chris.
Double check. But
so please make sure you're right, because my old football manager John, he lied. He lied to me all those years ago.
I thought it was a professional manager. Oh no, they did. They drew 0-0. They did.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, they didn't lose.
But they didn't. That is a new La Liga. I believe the previous record was 14 shots on target.
Did the other keeper get man of the match? He must have done.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot not to ask questions about the stats.
Yeah. Don't ask questions about stats.
You're not that
let's
well
say
prepped.
Let's. Well, I'm going to give it to him anyway. There you go.
He's got the view from the sideline.
Yeah,
podcast,
he's got
man of the match.
The Wonders of White, man of the match. There you go. Look. Right.
You going to fly out and present it to him?
Is the podcast going to pay for me to go?
I don't know. Pete's taken all our budget. Okay, so talking of Pete, we're good at these segues. So we better go back to the teaser.
Oh, God.
So, how many teams with the word City in their name have played in the Premier League?
City.
So I've got Man City, Norwich City, Bradford City, Leicester City. I'm out.
Swansea City.
Swansea. I'm going to write these down so that we've got a number. So who's in there at the moment that's City?
So we've got Leicester.
We've got them. We've got Leicester, and we've got Leicester, Norwich, and Man City.
All right.
We're going to have to go down the leagues, aren't we? So unprepared for this one, Pete. I bet there's loads.
There probably is loads. Birmingham, good
one. I think there's. I don't think there's many in. I don't think there's many in the Premier League at the moment.
There's only 3.
City. Oh, we just mentioned one. Stoke,
yeah.
Stoke City. We're gonna have to admit defeat at some
7
point.
or 8.
Wow, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got Leicester, Bradford, Norwich, Man City, Swansea, Birmingham, Stoke. So 7. Do we just add a couple in? I think we should go with what we've got. Let's go with 7.
Okay, so we are saying 7.
Final answer of 7.
Okay, right, I'll go through them now. So we've got Birmingham, Bradford,
Tick.
Cardiff.
Nope.
Coventry.
Nope.
Hull.
Oh my days.
Leicester.
Got them.
Manchester City.
Got them.
Norwich.
Got them.
Stoke.
Yep.
Swansea.
Yep.
That's it. Is that 10?
Cardiff, Coventry, and Hull. When was the last time Coventry were in the Premier League?
Coventry were last in the Premier League.
Oh, you've got that stat, but you haven't got the man of the match in your.
I've got it right in front of me now, haven't I? It's 2001.
Right, okay. 2001. Okay, so 4-2. We're down.
Pete's crawling.
He's got us.
He's got us on the ropes.
He's got us. So we will add that teaser to the website. So what didn't we get? Cardiff, Hull, and Coventry. Okay, so there's 10. Right. Okay. So just to recap, that's the end of this week's podcast, I think, Chris. So,
yes.
Oh no, you've got an announcement to make about next week. But
okay, yeah.
Before we do that, we're just going to go back to the set piece shirts. So, just in case I wasn't clear at the beginning, because I do mumble a bit at the beginning of the podcast. So, go onto Instagram, follow our page, which is View from the Sideline Pod. Also, go on and follow Set Piece Shirts. Once you've done both, you'll be entered into the draw. We will be putting pictures of the shirt online in the next couple of days, and then there'll also be another chance to, if you don't enter at the moment, there'll be another chance once it's online for you to enter. So retro reproduction, Ian Rush number 9 shirt from.
Who doesn't want that shirt? I want that shirt.
It's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
It is actually a really nice shirt. So it's an XL, but a small X. So if you're a large, it will fit fine. So it's a Liverpool 1982 yellow Crown Paints kit. It's a really nice shirt. So yeah, if you want to get a chance of winning that, go on and like both the pages on Instagram, and then we will draw the winner at random. So yeah, over to you, Chris, for the announcement for next week.
Okay, yeah. So next week we actually have someone joining us. Next week we have a special guest.
Check us out.
Kind of coming into the invisible studio and having a chat with us. It's Liam. He is a Aston Villa fan, so we are going to be talking all things Aston Villa with a little segment with him. And I believe Rich is also going to do a quiz. Which,
I am. I'm
going
to put my Pete quiz hat on.
So yeah, something a little bit different. So it's the first time that we've actually done this. So yeah, so hopefully you all enjoy it. But yeah, I know Liam is excited to be coming on. So like I said, he's an Aston Villa fan, so I'm sure he's got a lot to say about how he thinks they're doing at the moment. Okay,
so we'll end it there. Spurs are still 0-0. I'll tell you now that they'll go out on penalties. Yeah, because that's just the way it's going at the moment. Saints still 2-0 up on Portsmouth in the South Coast Derby. So yeah, we'll leave it there. So thanks for listening. Don't forget, if you want to be in with a chance of winning the Liverpool shirt, go on to Instagram, and we'll speak to you next week.
See you later.